expanded later on if they want. So certification management system is a third-party conformity assessment activity. Now there's another standard, ISO 17000, which is the terminology for ISO 17021. So we are a third party providing conformity assessment activity called certification activity for management system standards. So it could be quality management, environmental management. As you know, as SMG, we already providing a range of certification standards, 9001, 14001, 45001, 27001, 20000-1, 223001, 22,000 and 21,001 and 37,001. We are accredited now, and then this is part of our accreditation process to have this ISO 17021 session. Normative reference, the vocabulary in ISO 9000 and 17,000 are two normative references that we need to follow when we are implementing ISO 17021. The section 4 is about, actually section 3 is about definitions, but I did not put the definitions here because when we do the section 9 later on in section 10, we will talk more about the definitions because they are very much related to operation and improvement. Now, principles 4. The principles that we have are few principles that we're going to talk about from the standard, and they are impartiality, competence, responsibility, openness, confidentiality, responsiveness to complaints, and risk-based approach. Though those principles are not auditable principles, it means that accreditation body, they don't audit on principles, but every principle is already embedded in another section in the standard. For impartiality, for example, is in 5.2, which is managing impartiality, competence in section 7, responsibility in section 6, openness and confidentiality, we'll see them in different sections, and so risk-based approach also in different sections. So they are already there if we want to see them. Now, but what is the basic of certification? Why we do certification? The overall aim of certification is to give confidence to all parties that a management system fulfills specified requirements. So the users of the certification business, those that are interested in the certification business, they have to feel confident that when they see a certificate, that this certificate is a genuine one, is a good one, they can rely on it. So the value of certification is the degree of public confidence. So the most important issue is public confidence, is the reputation of the company, is this of the certification body. So a certification body, if you have a reputation of being not respected, then people will not respect you. So we need to try to make sure that we are respecting our certificate that we are issuing to people. And so public confidence and trust that is established by an impartial and competent assessment by a third party. So when they see that, they know this is something good. So who is interested in the certification business? Clients to the certification bodies. Our client that we certified, they want to make sure that when they give the certificate to their clients, they can tell them, look, we are certified by SMG. SMG is a very good company. They have good reputation. They are fair. They are honest. They have integrity. They do their business properly. So that's very important. They are impartial when they give certification. And that's very important for our clients to be able to tell their customers about the value of the certificate they are getting from SMG. So customers of the organizations whose management system are certified, they need to trust and have confidence in this certification. Government authorities also, they need to trust us, non-governmental organization, and public in general and consumers in general. It's very important. And one of the things I would like to see, for example, when you give a certificate to a client and they are going to give it to their customers or to the public, when they read the scope of the certificate, they have to see that this is a scope that has a meaning, that this is the scope that can be understood by the reader, And this is really a scope that this company does. So for example, if a company is not in the business of food and they of food, for example, manufacturing, and we put in the scope like they do food manufacturing, their customers, they know them very well, they know what they do. So if they see a certificate or a scope that is not what this company is doing, they will laugh at us. They say, well, what kind of a certification body is this certification body offering a certification to a client and stating in a scope something they don't do? So this is very important for us to give that confidence. So impartiality. Importance of impartiality. It's very important for people to see that certification body is impartial. That it means that they are not biased. They base their business on objective evidence, and everyone in the organization understands. Everyone in the certification body, every person working in the certification body, they understand the importance of impartiality. They know what does mean impartiality. That's very, very important, because if they don't understand that, this would be really risky. They put the certification body at risk. Now, some of the impartiality issues can be, tricky issue is that we collect money from our clients. When we do the certification business, we charge our client money. Because we're charging them money and they have to pay us, that could be a source of threat to impartiality, because we are thinking if we make the client unhappy, then probably they will not pay us, or even if they pay us, probably they will go somewhere else and then we're going to lose revenue. This is a very important issue, and that's a very, borderline issue, because how we make a balance between being impartial and between being a certification body or a business or a supplier that would like to make the client happy and satisfy them. So what is the satisfaction of the client? Is it to get the certificate anyhow, or is it their satisfaction will be because when they see real work? So is the client going to be happy if we go and do real audit and be fair in our audit, in collecting evidence and pointing to them the conformity areas and non-conformity areas clearly, objectively, and telling them that probably your certificate cannot be granted now, but it will be granted once you address those non-conformities? Are they going to be happy with that? Or they are going to be happy with someone who would say, okay, though you have non-conformities, we're still going to give you a certificate because you are paying us. We will not tell them because you are paying us, but we are thinking about it. So that's an interesting issue that we need to always be careful about it. Our job is to make sure that the client is happy, and if we have enough diplomacy and we have enough attitude, a positive attitude and positive behavior with the client, we can show them how important for them to accept non-conformities, and therefore we're not doing them any harm when we give them non-conformity. That's a very important point to be thinking about. And certification decisions not influenced but based on objective evidence. That's the basic of impartiality. Threats to impartiality may include but are not limited to the following: self-interest, threats that arise from a person or body acting in their own interest. A concern related to certification as a threat to impartiality is financial self-interest. For example, an auditor who is willing to take a bribe. Okay, I hope nobody will do that from our team, and I'm sure no one will do that. But someone who's interested in getting some money, or probably auditing the organization and getting from them other business outside the auditing activities, and then this will generate money for this auditor. And then in this case, probably the impartiality will be jeopardized by this auditor. Self-review, threats that arise from a person or body reviewing the work done by themselves. It's very important to understand that if I'm going to do an audit or any activity, I cannot make a self-review. So for example, I have to approve an auditor to do an audit. I cannot be this auditor and approve myself. I cannot go and say, oh, I'm going to approve myself as an auditor and I'm going to do the audit. That doesn't work. someone else has to approve me as an auditor so I can conduct the audit. So it's very important, okay? Any review for a work I have done must be done by someone else, not myself. Even if I am the top management of the organization, because some people might think I'm the top manager of the organization, so I can accept anything or I can review anything. No, because sometimes some top managers of organizations, us and like some other people working with us, also representative worldwide, you might be the owner of the business or the manager of the business and at the same time doing audits. So you have to be careful, because you are the owner of the business or you are the manager and you are the top manager, doesn't mean you can review your own work. I'm the owner, okay, I do the review. Yeah, but if I do the audit, someone else has to do the review on my behalf. It cannot be that I do the review of my work. That's very important, and we need to understand that. Auditing the management system of a client to whom the certification body provided management system consultancy would be a self-review threat. So we're not supposed to do consultancy for a client that we issue them a certificate. It's not acceptable that we do consultancy and certification at the same time. Familiarity or trust. So it means that sometimes some auditors may create a personal relationship with the auditee, and then in this case, they might think that they have a good relation with the auditee. And sometimes we see that some auditees, they would ask for certain auditor. We want this auditor to audit us. Because why? Because they have get some kind of a relationship, a close relationship with this auditor, and then they think that this auditor will trust them or will be less uh, stringent with them, or will be less seeking for objective evidence. So will probably do the audit in a loose manner or whatsoever. So that's why in some time we try to change the auditor, like not to do one auditor to do the audit of a company all the time. So let's say for every year we change the auditor, or at least every cycle the auditor must be changed for the company, so to make sure that there's no that relationship between the auditor and the auditee. Intimidation, and that's a very important one, threats that arise from a person or body having a perception of being uh, of being coerced openly or secretively, such as a threat to be replaced or reported to supervisor. Sometimes we get threats from people, and they can threaten us by any means, like we will not do business with you, I will report you to a manager, I might do this to you or whatsoever. So that's also another threat to impartiality that we need to worry about. This is principle one, this is impartiality. Principle two, which is competence. That's very important principle, that we need to make sure that all our people are competent. And we're going to discuss competency later on, but we have to make sure that people are competent. We know sometimes, for example, some of our representatives may put pressure on us to approve their auditors quickly. Okay, we have no problem working with you and approving their uh, approval to qualify auditors of all your personnel, but we have to make sure that they are really competent. We have to make sure that the certificate they are going to issue is a good one, a genuine one, that auditees, they deserve that certificate. So please understand that competence is a very important principle of ISO 17021, and we make sure that people working for us are competent. People, staff, salespeople, reviewers, auditors, top management, support people, anyone in the organization must be competent. Competence is, there's an Annex A and the standard that you can look at, and in that Annex A, you have the competence. Responsibility. The client is responsible for the consistency of the system. We as certification body, we are not responsible to ensure that the system is consistent after we leave the audit. It's the client's responsibility to make sure it's consistent. However, we are responsible to collect enough evidence to take a decision based on sampling, to grant or not grant a certification must be based on enough evidence. Enough evidence may need more time to do the audit. And that's also another issue, putting pressure on us because there is competition. How many days we're going to do the audit? So sometimes say, oh, 2 days or 3 days or 4 days, but the competition is offering this time. How do we collect enough evidence? Mainly if the client is a high risk client, how do we know that we are going to have enough evidence to grant or not granting certification? That's a very important issue to look at and remember. Confidentiality. Okay, beside responsibility, we have confidentiality. So certification body does not disclose any confidential information. That's very important. Now, we do not disclose, but we also have in place mechanism to ensure that we have information security, that the information about the client and the auditee is not being available to those that are not supposed to see it. That's very important also to remember, because otherwise, if anyone can see the information about the client, that would be not good. I have missed the principle on openness. Openness is a principle of access to or disclose of appropriate information. We have to be open to give people information about what we do. So we need to tell people what we are doing, what certification we are doing, and give information about our certification business. And then we have confidentiality. And then we have responsiveness to complaint. If we have a complaint, we need to address this complaint and investigate it properly. A complaint could be from customers, could be from interested parties, could be from customers to our certified clients. Then we need to make access to people and investigate the complaint and address it. However, we need to make a balance between openness, confidentiality, and responsiveness to complaint to make sure that we are not disclosing any confidential information about our clients to people who are complaining. Then we have principle number 4.8 is risk-based approach. So basically you have 7 principles. Principle number 7 is risk-based approach. This principle is a new one. It was not before in the 17/021, but 17/021, 2015 introduced risk-based approach. We have to make sure we understand all the risks associated with our activities, okay, by providing competent, consistent, and impartial certification. So risk could be linked to objectives of the audit. If we do not define objective clearly of the audit, we might have a risk when we issue the certificate. The sampling used in the audit process, there's a risk if we don't take enough samples during the audit, then we have risk of not making a sound judgment on granting or not granting the certificate. Real and perceived impartiality, if there's no impartiality, there's a risk. Legal, regulatory, and liability issues, if we don't respect legal requirements, we run the risk of not being fair in issuing certificate or not granting certificate. Client organization being audited and its operating environment. There's a risk when auditing them, we might have risk on them. When we are auditing, we need to understand that we don't put our clients in risk when we are auditing them. From all type of risk, we don't put them in risk because we did not get permission to enter their premises or whatsoever, and we don't put them at risk when we don't safeguard the information about their business. Impact of the audit on the client and his activity is the same thing almost. Health and safety of audit teams. Again, we need to make sure that we respect the health and safety of the audit teams and of the auditee. Perception of interested parties. This is a risk. If they don't see us as a good, reputable organization, we might have a risk. And misleading statements by the certified client. Now, the misleading statement by the certified client, this is a very important thing that we need to be careful about, because when we issue a certificate to a client, they might make a statement about the certification that's misleading, and we need to make sure that we know how to control that. Let's take an example in this. For example, if a client has many sites and they only certify their head office, so we need to make sure that we put in the scope and the certificate something to tell the reader of the certificate that this is only for the head office. So we put the address clearly, and we make sure they do not go and say our company is certified, so people can think that their company is certified. It means every site is certified. So the certificate is specific to the site. So that has to be clear in our certificate. Also, misleading statement could be when we write the scope in a way that's misleading. So we make it a general scope and certificate so that people can think. So for example, general management. Okay, that could be managing a small store, that could be managing a nuclear plant. Which management we are talking about? So it has to be very important. We need to be very, very careful when we issue the certificate so that we don't make any misleading statement, and our certified clients don't make any misleading statement that would mislead people. For example, company, they have gas stations. Okay, they have some, for example, 100, 200, 300, 400 petrol stations where they sell gas and fuel. So they go and have a occupational health and safety management system certification against ISO 45001 for one station, and then we don't pay attention to how to put the statement and the certificate, so the client could claim that all the gas stations are certified while only one gas station is certified. So that's very important, and this is a very important issue. Use of marks also. When they use the certification mark, we have rules and regulations to follow how to use the certification mark. This is the first part about the principles. Is there any question? Anyone who has any question would like to ask question about this part? No? No questions? Okay. Okay, fine. So we go to the next session, which is the general requirement. Legal responsibility. Certification body must be a legal entity. So if we are a legal entity, we can operate, and if we are not, we cannot operate.
Sorry, there is a question.
Yeah.
Ivan is asking if we're going to talk about remote audits today.
No, we're not going to talk about remote audits today. That's 17 or 21. Section 9 about auditing, we'll be talking about remote audit. Section 9, it's about auditing. We will talk about that, okay? Today we are going to talk about only 1 to 8. 9, we'll leave it to another session. Legal responsibility, we have to be a legal entity to operate. Certification agreement, that's very important one. When we sign an agreement with a client to be certified, we have to have a certification agreement signed by the client showing what is certified, what site is certified. If more than one site is certified, we have to show that, and with whom this agreement is made, which office of our offices. So our main office is in Ottawa, so all certification agreements are issued from Ottawa. Responsibility for certification decisions. The certification body shall be responsible for and shall retain authority for. So auditors, when they do their audits, team leader, lead auditor cannot tell the client you are certified. They can tell them we are going to recommend you for certification. The decision is with the certification body. So okay, we have to do this decision. So anyone doing the decision will become a critical office that will be audited by the accreditation body. So now decision is made only by one office, so in Canada, and we can do it also in our office in Beirut. So if we make decision in any place, we have to be careful who does the decision, including the granting, refusing, maintaining of certification, expanding or reducing the scope of certification. So you are doing the audit and the client wants to extend the scope of the audit. You cannot tell them, okay, yes, I will expand the scope for you. This is something that the certification body has the right to do. You cannot do. You can see it, you can look at it. You may have to go back to the salespeople to see if you can, if the time is enough to do that. So renewing, suspending, or suspending, for example, that's this. Whosoever make the decision to grant the certification is the authority that will also make the decision on expanding, reducing, renewing, suspending, or restoring, or withdrawing of certifications. So that's very important to be careful doing that. So we try to do this through our database, make sure it's done properly. Section 5.2, management of impartiality. One of the principles we talked about is impartiality. Now we need to know how to do that management of impartiality. At SMG, we have an impartiality committee to manage that. Shall not allow commercial, financial, or other pressures to compromise impartiality. So that's very important to be done through the impartiality committee. They review our policies, they review our procedures, our mission, our vision, they review our financial system, and make sure that we do not jeopardize impartiality. So we have an impartiality policy. Impartiality policy could be a general policy for everything, including impartiality. So the certification body must identify, analyze, evaluate, threat, monitor, and document the risks related to conflict of interest arising from provision of certification, including any conflicts arising from its relationship on ongoing basis. So we need to look at risks that we might have that will not allow us to be impartial. So we have to show how we work with that and how any relationship that we have will work with impartiality, and then we make sure that this is very well done. Certification body shall not certify another certification body for its quality management system. We will not, we have to be a legal entity, and if we have a legal entity and we have another organization under the same legal entity, we cannot certify them. We cannot do internal audit for organizations that we have certified. That's very important. If one of our clients would ask us to do internal audits, we cannot do that. That's very important and must be clear for all of us. We cannot certify companies that we have done consultancy for them, and we are not supposed as a certification body to offer any certification to people that we have in doing with them any consultancy. We cannot do consultancy work. Anyone doing consultancy work cannot do the audit unless after 2 years. So we have to make sure this is very important and very clear. Anyone doing business with the certification body cannot do consultancy for the company. Certification bodies shall require personnel, internal, external, to reveal any situation known to them that can present them or the certification body with a conflict of interest. So that's why we make everyone sign conflict of interest declaration and confidentiality statements, so we make sure that we all are impartial. We have adequate arrangement. So impartiality, we cannot have a representative who does, okay, certification body. So we cannot this is a very important issue. The certification body shall not outsource audits to a management system consultancy organization. So we cannot, as a certification body, outsource a consultants organization to be our representative to do certification. It has to be another entity that will do the certification business. Liability and financing. So we must have enough insurance in our organization. And this is the same for our representatives. We have to have insurance, and our representative must buy insurance to cover any liability arising from the operation we are doing. Okay, that's very important for all of us to understand. And we shall evaluate our finance resources of income and demonstrate that initially and on an ongoing basis, commercial, financial, or other pressure do not compromise impartiality. But that's very important to know, where is our revenue coming from? Usually revenue from certification body will come from their clients and not from anyone else, okay, from activity of certification. Section 6, structure. Okay, do any question about general requirements and how to manage impartiality and how to ensure we have enough insurance and enough financial system? Any question? Anyone has any question about that? Okay, no question. We can go ahead.
Right. That's fine. Oh, someone is asking. Okay, what about the freelancer's audit? Okay, he's asking.
The freelancer, we can do work with a freelancer if he's a consultant, provided that he doesn't audit the company he consulted with. Okay, that's fine. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, it's fine for him. Okay.
Organization structure and top management. We shall document our organization structure, duties, responsibilities, and authorities of management and other personnel involved in certification and any committees. When the certification body is a defined part of a legal entity, the structure shall include the line of authority. Okay, in our case, it's not the case because SMG is an independent organization, is not part of another legal entity. So we need to make sure we have organization structure. Certification activities shall be structured and managed as to safeguard impartiality. So whenever we do our system, we always thinking about impartiality. So here is a very important issue. 6.1.3 shall identify the top management board group of person having overall authority and responsibility for each of the following. So we have a board of directors in SMG that they are responsible to specify the responsibility and authority for the following: development of policies and establishment of processes and procedures relating to its operation. So there is a technical committee that is responsible at SMG to develop the processes and the policies and to be approved by the top management. Okay. Supervision of the implementation of the policy, process, and procedure. This is done by the certification department and by scheme managers that they are responsible to make sure that policies, process, and procedures are implemented. Ensuring impartiality, and this is done by an impartiality committee that will approve all policies, processes, and procedures of SMG and will oversee how the implementation is done. Okay, they can review our internal audits that we do to make sure the implementation is done properly. Supervision of its finance. We have a financial person, financial manager, who will supervise finance and will be independent from other activities to make sure there is no conflict of interest. Development of management system, certification service, and other schemes. So when we develop any new service or any new scheme, we must have people who are assigned the responsibility and authority to do that. So we do have a design of new scheme or modifying a scheme or providing a new certification service. There is a scheme committee that will do that, and it's in charge of this activity. Performance of audits and certification, responsiveness to complaint. Who is in charge of doing auditors, and who's in charge of granting certificate. Decision on certification also must be clear. Who is the one who is going to make decision on certification? It could be one person, it could be committee. Okay, usually reviewers will review the audit packages, will send it to a certification authority that will make the decision on certification. Now, we may have committees that will be delegated some authorities from top management or individuals to do activities that are assigned to other people. Contractual arrangement, who will do the agreement with, for example, subcontractors, outsource activities, outsourced auditor, whatsoever, who's in charge of doing that. Provision of adequate resources for certification activities, who's in charge to providing resources to make sure this is done properly. So we have to make sure in our system all these things are answered, okay, and all these things are put in the system. So shall have formal rules for the appointment, terms of reference, and operation of committees. Every committee that we have will have its terms of reference, how this committee operates, when they meet, what authorities they have, how they do decisions, and how they make sure the decisions are implemented. This is all in the terms of references in any committees that we have. We have impartial committees, and we have scheme committees that they look at designing a new certification service or a new scheme, and we have the committees in charge of decisions for certification or withdrawal. Operational control 6.2, we must have, shall have a process for the effective control. Now, so we have a process, certification process, and actually in ISO 17021, and one of the annex of ISO 17021-1, they have a certification flow, process flow that we are following. But also we need to make sure that we have a certification process for our branches. If we have branches, how those branches are operating. And if we have partnership, agents or franchisees, how they operate. So we do have procedures and processes in place that explains that, and we have already sent them to you as agent or partners how to follow those processes. So this is very important to have controls on this. So we need to consider the risk of these activities by offices, branch offices, activities by partners, by agents, by franchisees. These are what are the risks because of their activities, and how we make sure that they have competent people, they are consistent in doing their job, and how we make sure that impartiality is always in place, even if we have branches, if we have partnership or agent or franchises. And we need to see what type of control we're going to put on every one of them. Now, any question about section 6?
Yeah, we have a question. Oh, okay. So is having different branches in different place, if then do we need to have a separate certificate for the quality of education management system, although the head office is the main directive for all the other branches? This is the question.
Or is the question, I mean, a client who has?
Yeah, having different branches in different places. So do we need to have a separate certificate for the quality of education management system? I'm sure this question is from our partners from Pakistan.
So basically,
this is from
Sadaf Shahid. I asked this question from Pakistan.
Okay.
I am running a chain of schools in Pakistan. And as you discussed in 6.2.1, we have some head office is working here. And on the basis of the specific directive, we are having or piloting all the products in one of the campus that is called the model campus. My question is that if we are going to complete the requirement or fulfill the requirement of ISO 21001 education standard, do we need to do the same practices to all the franchises and offices, or it would be enough for us to have the confidence in the head office because of the control of all other things? This was my question. Thank you.
If this is if you want to be certified for ISO 21001, which is the Education Organization Management System, for the head office, and the head office is running other schools, no?
Yes.
Other places. Okay, so if they say we want this certificate to include all our schools, okay, then we if it is the same system in all schools they are following, then we do sampling. We do what we call sampling. Okay. So we audit the head office, okay, and then we sample the others. We don't audit them, all of them. We sample them. However, as a head office, you have to do internal audit on all of them.
Okay.
And when we do the audit of the head office, we review the internal audit quality.
Okay.
If
like the schools are doing the self-evaluation, they need to put their document or the internal audit to us.
Yeah, if they do if they are doing internal audit or you doing their internal audits, we have to review them. We review the internal audit or self-evaluation they do. And we look at the quality of that work done by you. If it is good and competent people are doing it, then we have the trust and confidence that your internal audit is an effective one, then we do sampling only. But if we discover that the internal audit that you are doing is not an effective one, then we have to audit each school. All right? So
yes,
you do the control. You have provided it's the same scope and same system implemented everywhere.
Yes.
If the scope is different, let's say you have a primary school in one place and you have secondary school in another place, and the same system is only for primary schools. Secondary school are different. Then we have to audit the secondary school.
Yes.
All right. All right. So if it is the same system, same scope, we do the audit on the head office. We look at your franchise control system. You look at your internal audit system, and then we do sampling. So if you have 100, let's say if you have 100 schools, we will audit 10 out of 100. Okay. And we will look at the 90 others from your internal audit that you have done.
Okay.
All right?
Okay.
Mr. Mohammed, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Osama.
Yeah.
Hello?
Yes, Osama Habibi, تفضل.
Good afternoon, everybody, or good day.
Yeah.
We have a client who is now almost not operating, and they are ready for the certification audit, but maybe some operations are not working now. Is it okay that we make the certification audit with some parts of this school, because the students don't come to the school?
No, if they,
What is the situation? Can we make an audit in this?
no, we cannot.
You know.
That's not an easy
Okay.
task to do. No, if they were
Okay.
if they were certified.
No. There are the management is there, the staff is there,
Yeah.
but kids are not.
Yeah.
The main operation is not functioning.
Yes. No. I'm
Yeah,
asking
no,
really because they are asking us.
It's not easy to do that.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah. This is, I mean, okay. Well, let's hope they will open shortly.
Yes. Okay.
All right. Section 7, resource requirements. As we said earlier, one of the principle of ISO 17021 is competence. And here we have to make sure we know what resources we have. So we need to have staff planning to make sure we have enough staff, enough auditors, enough support staff, enough people working to manage the certification activities. So we need to make sure that everyone from those people are knowledgeable and they have skills that they can do the work properly. Now, where do we find the criteria, documented criteria of required knowledge and skills? If you go to the ISO 17021-1 Annex A, they have in Annex A the knowledge and skills that a certification body shall define for specific functions. And we have other standards like 17021-2-3 and TS22003 for food, where for every scheme now, you have a different 17021 that will talk about competencies for environment, competency for health and safety, competency for information security, competency for anti-bribery, competency for 9001 for quality, so for 21001 educational organization. So there are 17021 standards specific to that standard. Okay, if there is no standard specific to a scheme, we use the one for 9001. We use the 17021 for 9001. But like, for example, for the food, we have ISO TS22003. So when we're running a food certification management system, so we need to make sure that people, they doing this business of the food safety management system, they have competency based on ISO TS22003. All right. So it depends on the standard, then we need to make sure that we follow those requirements. So as a certification body, we have to make sure we have a stringent system here to make sure that people are competent in doing their job. So we need to have documented processes for the initial competence evaluation and ongoing monitoring of competence and performance of all person in all processes. So now, for example, for auditors, what is the initial competence evaluation? If you have a new auditor, a new candidate to be qualified as an auditor, how we do the initial competence evaluation, that's very important to be in place. Now, if someone is already a certified or qualified auditor by another certification body, we still need to make sure we do initial competence evaluation. ISO 17021 does not allow a certification body to grant approval for an auditor who has been approved by another certification body automatically. So you cannot come and say, I am approved by this certification body, so I want to work with you, approve me. Okay, we will do less evaluation on you, but we cannot, it's not automatic. It's not like grandparenting. You cannot just say because you have been approved by another certification body, you're going to be approved. A minimum is one witness audit because of two things. One, we have to make sure ourselves, because we cannot rely on risk assessment done by others. We have to make sure ourselves that we have done our risk assessment. And two, because every certification body has its own way of doing their activities. So when we witness you for one time, it means we need to explain to you and train you and orient you, do orientation session for you on how we do business ourselves, how we operate ourselves. You cannot know how we operate if you go and do the audit on your own without being at least trained or having an orientation session and having a witness audit. So please understand that it's a requirement from 17021, not from us. They will not accept that we automatically qualify auditors, even if you have been doing audits for 20, 30 years with another certification body. It's not grandparenting issue. We have, as a certification body, to ensure that you are competent. Now, if someone is a new candidate, has never been certified with another certification body, then they might need about 3 or 4 or 5 witness audits. But if you are certified with another certification body already, we do only 1 witness audit. So you have to be careful about that, because otherwise we'll be in trouble with the accreditation body. It's not because we don't want to qualify you, not we don't want to certify you. It's because we are also audited by the accreditation body, and this is a requirement of the accreditation body of 17021 to do a minimum of 1 witness audit if you are already approved or qualified by another certification body and moving to doing audit with us. We need to make sure that we have enough technical expertise for advice on matters of technical areas, types of management system, and geographical areas. That's very important. These days, just to let you know, accreditation bodies are raising the bar, and they are going into details about technical expertise of auditors. So as an auditor, what technical expertise do you have in a certain industry code? As SMG, we are operating as a on IAF, based on IAF codes, which is 1 to 39. So if you are, for example, approved to audit construction companies, construction industry, now the accreditation body are asking, the accreditation bodies are asking us, how do you know that this auditor has enough technical expertise in construction industry? What proof do you have for that? So we are going to do exams for auditors on the schemes. So if you are approved for construction, you're going to do an exam on construction industry with questions on that, and you need to pass those questions. So we have to make sure, because you see, accreditation bodies, and let's put it very clear here, they are telling us, certification bodies, we cannot depend on CVs. Someone can put anything on a CV. How do you know they are telling you the truth? How do you know what they put in the CV is correct? Okay, if you have a university degree, that's the university degree, we can verify it. And then if you put in the university degree what courses you took at university, then this could be verified. But if you are adding extra experience, extra knowledge outside your education system, or outside any training programs you are taking, how do we know this is correct or not correct? All right. And some people, they might have university degrees, but may have never worked in their expertise or their knowledge that they have gained from university. So we need to make sure that there's enough technical expertise in those people doing the audit and in those people reviewing the audit package. Otherwise, it will be not easy to claim that we are competent in doing our business. So personnel involved in the certification activities, sufficient competent personnel for managing and supporting. So you manage the certification, you need to have knowledge about certification business, knowledge about ISO 17021, knowledge about the schemes that you are certifying, and the supporting staff also must have this knowledge. Employ or have access to a sufficient number of auditors, audit team leaders, and technical experts. Because if you don't have enough auditors and you have clients, how are you going to serve those clients? Because if you don't audit on time, the client may lose their certification, and this is not their problem. It could be because of us. For example, I know as an experience, one certification body, they had a lot of clients in one scheme, and they lost few auditors in that scheme. So they were not able to audit all the clients on time, and this has put their audits into losing their certification because of the deadline. So that was not a good thing for them. The accreditation body suspended the accreditation for that scheme until they hired more people to do the audit. So that's very important. We have to show that we are doing the audits on time and we are not jeopardizing our client's certificate due date. Make clear to each person their duties, responsibility, and authorities. We have to make sure that everyone in the organization, they know what they have to do and what the responsibilities and authorities are. So, and then when we select, train, authorize auditors, and for selecting and familiarization technical experts used in the certification activity, make sure that we have a process for that. And we have the ability to apply required knowledge and skills during audit. So this is important. On paper, I might see on paper that the person has the knowledge, has the skills, but we have to make sure that they are competent, meaning they know how to apply this knowledge and skills during the audit. So someone can tell me, I have taken a lead auditor course, I'm doing audit, I know how to do collect evidence. Well, you have to see that on the ground, because it's easy to say it. You need to see that the person can really collect evidence during an audit. Okay, that's, well, we already discussed that. We don't want to really. We need to monitor the competence of, so initial evaluation and monitoring later on and doing witness audit on the auditors. If we use individual external auditors and external technical experts, this is the freelancers, individual, not companies, okay? External auditors and external technical experts to have a written agreement. We make an agreement with them. Cannot just hire them to do the audit without an agreement. And we need to maintain records for that. We do outsourcing, meaning that we have an agent or a representative. So we need to have a legally enforceable agreement covering the arrangement, including confidentiality, conflict of interest with each body that provides outsourced services. We have to make sure we spell out in that agreement what are the responsibility of every party. So what are the responsibilities of the outsourced organization, the agent, the representative, and what are our responsibilities as SMG, the certification body. This has to be clearly in the agreement. Decisions for granting, refusing, maintaining of certification, expanding or reducing the scope of certification, renewing, suspending or restoring or withdrawing of certification shall not be outsourced. This is very important. I'm reading it letter by letter just to make sure that we all understanding. Decision for granting, refusing, maintaining of certification, expanding or reducing the scope of certification, renewing, suspending or restoring the suspension or withdrawal of certification shall not be outsourced. We cannot outsource this to an agent or to a representative. It has to stay as part of our responsibility and authority. If any agent would have that authority, that agent will be considered now as a critical office and must be audited by the accreditation body. So the certification body shall take responsibility for all activities outsourced to another body, ensure conformance to requirements of the certification body and also to 17021, ensure conflicts of interest. We cannot tell the accreditation body as SMG, well, this is not my fault, it's the fault of the agent or the representative. They will not hear that. They will not listen to that, okay? We will be in trouble if something wrong has been done. So we make sure that approval and monitoring of all bodies that provide outsourced services used for certification activities and shall ensure that records of the competence of all personnel involved in certification activities are maintained. It's very important. Any question about competence? No questions? Okay, good. So we do the last section for today, which is information requirements, public information, certification document, references to certification and use of marks, confidentiality, information exchange between a certification body and its client. Public information. So as a certification body shall maintain through publication, electronic media or other means and make public without request in all the geographical areas in which it operates information about So no one has to request this information. We have to make it public without request. What? Audit processes, how we do audit. Processes for granting, refusing, maintaining, renewing, suspending, restoring, or withdrawing certification, or expanding or reducing the scope of certification. C, types of management systems and certification scheme in which we operate.